So I was saying that I saw an online flower workshop, and if anybody wants the link, I can send it to you. But Charles Needle, one of the photographers, said, like other art forms, photography is a performance art like dance. You have to keep practicing it. And that is very true of ICM. So I wanted to ask in this group, before I share screen, how many of you have tried shooting ICM? Raise your hand. Okay, Bob. Norm, did you raise your hand too? Or just Bob?
I did
not. Okay. So I will tell you that in my limited experience, some people love it, some people hate it, some people say, heck no, I'm never going to try it. It goes against everything I've ever learned. I'm in a group of people who took a lot of classes with Eddie Soloway, and there's a couple people in the group and they're not interested. It offends them. And then one guy is trying it against his better instincts. So it's very personal. And I first became interested in ICM in one of my classes with Eddie Soloway. Has anybody taken a class with him? So 2 years ago, at the beginning of the pandemic, I had time in my schedule. And so most of you know that my technical skills need a lot of work. And so Eddie's he gave us assignments and I learned a whole lot of things. And one of them was to try to shoot the essence of something and show motion or energy. Now you could do it by getting a moving car, or you could move the camera. And a third thing was to still the motion, shoot at a high enough shutter speed. And I know most of you know that, but this was all new to me, how to do that. I thought there's this quote by Georgia O'Keeffe. She thought the details get in the way of essence. And so a lot of ICM is shooting essence. After the first time I shot for the assignment for Eddie, I fell in love with it. And I shot the ginkgo grove. And I think one of the reasons is that without my glasses, that's how I see the world. And so it very much took me back to being a child. So for all those of you who are high minus myopics, if you take your glasses off when there's a traffic light and it's raining, it's beautiful. The colors spread. So I think ICM reminded me of that. I also think it got very popular during the pandemic because I'll explain to you why. Let me see if I can share screen. Norm, is that enabled? And you're muted, Norm.
Good question. I don't see okay, I can see.
Okay, I see a share. Let me give it a try.
Yeah. Okay, you're showing up.
Okay, so slideshow, play from the start. Okay. So I call this pure ICM and less pure ICM. And what I mean by that is I'm in a Facebook group that is pure ICM. You can't do double exposures, and there's all kinds of things that they mandate and that don't qualify. So I'm going to start with the pure basic ICM. So we talked about it, and because of Bob's issue with sound, I won't ask, but some people have favorite subjects that they like to do. Okay, I'm going to see if I can move this little part of the screen over here. Good. So ICM is about controlling and combining shutter speed and camera movement to achieve your creative vision. It's about the direction of the movement and the amount of the movement. And so a lot of people ask about, what about a tripod? A lot of ICM lovers don't use tripods, and I find that extremely freeing. Here's a technique I have not tried, but you could. On a very windy day, you can put the camera on a tripod, pointing diagonally into the wind, loosen your ball head, press the camera release, and pan. Sounds cool. I haven't done it yet. Okay, let's try this. Oh. Wait a minute. All right. All right, it's maybe use my second screen for something. So a lot of people call ICM work painterly. Kyra Siren is a Finnish photographer, and she's very involved in ICM Photography magazine. And she says the technique enables us to achieve many kinds of results, but often the images resemble paintings, particularly watercolor, early impressionism, or abstract impressionism. ICM photography is not a random or accidental movement of the camera, but controlled moves in order to create the desired image and atmosphere. So Beth Beulah, who shoots, I don't know how many of these people you know, she shoots a lot of architecture. And this is so true. Be ready for friends and family to be a bit confused by your images. Most of us have been conditioned, consciously or not, that photographs document rather than reimagine or interpret the world. So when faced with what looks like a blurry abstract image that you label photograph, they might not know what to make of it. So be prepared for that. Andrew Gray said, if you are new to the technique, you might struggle to fully let go of everything you've learned about photography previously. I see that many people find it hard to lay down their tripods, their sharpness, their latest and greatest gear acquisitions, and their properly exposed captures. Also, having the kind of eye and mind that can spot potential in a streak of light or a blob of color helps. The kind of eye that sees recognizable shapes in clouds. Whether it's one of those things you are born with or develop over time, I'm not sure about. It will take time, hard work, and experimentation, both in the field and in post-processing, to get below the surface of it all. So I think the reason it became so popular in the pandemic is that you can shoot anything ICM. You can do city scenes, rural scenes, people, objects at home, macro and close-up. For objects at home, I'll probably forget. So let me say this now. One of the things I saw on one of these groups I'm in, people shoot scarves, silk scarves in ICM, and they're absolutely gorgeous. So it's easy to find something to shoot. So this is the courthouse. This is one of my early ICMs. It's a simple vertical movement. You can see that things stretch upward. This is for a contest I'll tell you about later through the ICM photography group, where every other weekend now on a Friday, they give you a topic. And sometimes it's groups of threes, all kinds of things. I don't remember what the topic was. So this was the one I shot. So you can see this is at Shenandoah. You can shoot animals. You can shoot fences. You can shoot flowers. And you see they look different according to the movement. This is some old wheels. So it has a very rural feel. This was downtown Old Town. First time I'd been out of the house for 2 years, and it was pretty deserted. So one of the things for me that ICM does, there's a lot about essence and feeling. I have a lot of emotions about these. This was one in particular the same day. So here is a restaurateur trying to make money, and all of the chairs are grouped together. There's nobody there. So that to me is about loneliness and somebody's budget not working well. So this, so you can shoot people. This was for an assignment for this ICM Facebook group. And the important decision being made here is what drink to order at the bar. So, but I mean, it's fun, and you see you can do all kinds of things with it. This is a sunset. So this one was for one of these ICM photo competitions, and it said, shoot something of value to you. Now, remember this image, because I'll show you what I did with it later. This was some jewelry my husband had made for me from a grandmother's ring many decades ago. This was for another competition. I was running late. We were going to someone's house, and the competition was show a path. So the point is, you don't need a lot of time. And from my point of view, you can have a lot of fun. I think this is funny. So this is a mop in motion. Maybe I think it's funny because I don't mop enough, but I just thought this is, and it's graphically very, very simple, diagonal, really simple. I also think this is funny. The assignment was shoot signage. And so caution, parking area may be slippery when icy or wet. And so by you moving it a little, you enhance that idea. So for me, ICM is about feeling. You can choose conceptual approaches where you focus on delicacy or pressure or grace. You can show your dark side, or you can reveal the spaces between things. You can hint at something without showing it. So you can be very literal or not literal. It's up to you. There's few of us enough here. I think we can do this, except maybe Bob shouldn't unmute. But what is the feeling anybody here gets from looking at this image?
Loneliness. All those chairs and nobody's sitting on any of them.
Yep. So I shot this outside the cancer center. And the chairs were huddled together because it was winter, but I found this profoundly moving for me because those chairs in better weather had people that didn't make it, people waiting, and people who did make it. So to me, there's just a lot of emotion with this image.
I can understand that for you who took it, but those of us looking at it wouldn't know that history.
No, but you saw the loneliness.
Sure. Yes, I did.
So this one is much more playful. This is our maple tree in the front yard, and they look like notes falling down. Let me just see who's calling me. Oh no, can't take it. Okay, this is in our house. It's curly willow with raku against a wall. So part of my point is if you want to play with this, anybody can play with it. These are candles that I shot horizontally, and it looks like an abstract. So this was just accepted by Las Lagunas Gallery in Las Laguna, California. I call it the Road to Oz. And so this one I shot through a window while Mark was driving while moving the camera. And so there's a great sense of wonder and mystery, and you can imagine a child looking at it and wondering. I call it the Road to Oz. What do you feel about this one?
That looks a little bit like Stranger Things.
Yeah. So this is purely creepy, right? And that's the beauty of ICM. So a whole lot of what I'm showing you tonight, I shot in my backyard during the pandemic. And this was into the sunset. That orange ball is the sun. And by moving the camera, you turn the trees into these spindly little things that can either be very beautiful, as some of them are that I'll show you, or just downright creepy. So here's some tips from the pros. Set ISO to its lowest native setting, 100 or 200. Before beginning, get your exposure correct, then start to work on direction and the amount of camera movement. Use neutral density filters if you need to, for example, on a bright day, but not graduated neutral density filters. And or you can use a polarizer to slow the shutter speed by a couple of stops. They also say make lots of images because you're going to probably delete most of them. And as you're working, check the technique and modify, slow the movement or adjust the shutter speed if you find what you're doing is not what you're liking. So in terms of shutter speed, where to start? When I took the class with Eddie, he gave us 1/15 as a good place to start. But other photographers much prefer 1 to 2 seconds or longer. And I have a shot to show you where it was 4 seconds. But I found it really helpful to have a place to start. The slower the speed of your moving camera, the more diffuse the details. The faster the speed, the more elongated an image, leading to abstracted images. So here's an example. This was shot with vertical movement, and you can see what that is, right? Can you tell what that is?
Looks like a playground.
It is. See, I can't tell. I know this stuff, so I don't know what it is. So, but look at this next one. Same playground, shot faster and horizontally. So what you have is an abstract color block, explosion of color. You've lost everything else, but I was in the same place on the same day. So the movement options are horizontal, vertical, diagonal, zigzag. You can push in or out. The next technique I have not had a lot of success with, but you can hold the camera still if you're doing several seconds and then drop it at the last second. You can vibrate the camera. You can do swooshes. You can hold the camera at arm's length for longer exposures. I'll show you one of those. And in that way, the camera's moving a little because you can't hold it firmly. You can let the wind vibrate it. You can walk forward with the camera. You can try so many things. So this one was 4 seconds at Blandy, and I just held it. And so it's very much like a painting to my eye. Now, Eddie had all these great shots from the beach of birds, where the birds would have 6 legs. And of course, I had no ability to get to a beach. So when it snowed, I threw birdseed out over the snow to try to get the birds to land on it. So you get the essence of a bird, the feeling of it. You know it's a bird, but it's hardly a bird for bird photographers, not what they would choose. But look at that little cute guy coming in to try to get some seeds. So to me, there's always a lot of emotion in this. This is a joyful image of a little boy on his trike. Now there's a series here from the Ginkgo Grove, and you'll see they're all different. They have a different feeling and a different motion. So that's clearly vertical. That's more diagonal. And these couple were the same day. These you can see the leaves more. These you can see the leaves less. And all this is speed and of movement and shutter speed. This was during a snowstorm of our spruce, where by moving it up, you can't see a lot of the needles. You just see this almost creepy, but kind of beautiful image of the tree. This was diagonal, backyard. Now, this is a little philosophical, but this is how I feel about ICM. It's from A Haunting Reverence by Ken Nurburn. Voices rise up and we begin to hear the echoes in the stones. I come before you to speak of these echoes. They live on the far margin of the spirit, where one hears the voice of winter on the autumn wind, or the chant of remembered lives rising from a plot of barren land. We have all heard this voice. It comes like a phantom in the play of sunfall on a summer hillside, or in the haunted still before a storm, or in some moment so fleeting and ineffable that we cannot catch it as it passes, but find it lodged deep within our spirit, where it dances with the colors of a dream. So a little more down to earth language from this guy, Todd Warrenkamp. ICM is a fascinating and beautiful world where the camera and the photographer's movements combine to become a mechanical paintbrush, transforming photographic capture into something completely unique and otherwise invisible to the naked eye. So if you were to go out on a workshop to a lighthouse and everybody shot traditionally, it's likely that a lot of things would be the same. With ICM, anything can happen. This was an early shot through my backyard into the sunset, and Paul Elledge, the photographer, really liked this one, and I kind of wondered why, because it's a little bit crooked, but it's just gold and brown and its essence. I think that's what he liked, that it's just the essence of sunset. This one, same place from the backyard, very different day. And through ICM, you could move the position of the clouds, so it's as though the trees go above the clouds. I call this one Idea of a Tree. So it was at sunset, hence the pink and gold, but there's just this basic skeleton of the tree left after the movement. This one, I really bumped the colors up a lot. But again, backyard, and it looks like roots and tree. And so I think one of the reasons a lot of people like to shoot trees is that there are a lot of approaches and you can capture so many moods. This is also at Blandy, the Ginkgo Grove. It was for a class I had with Susan Bernstein. She presented all these artists and she said, pick one you like and try to emulate. So this was, I chose Lynn Giesemann, and she likes oversaturated images as I do. And so you can make this image that's just very basic, pretty spring. But then if you convert it to black and white and do a few other things, it's kind of creepy and ghostly. And that's made possible through the magic of ICM. This is the one that was chosen by MSV. Come see my banner at the corner of Boscawen and Cameron. And I call this Hidden Colors of Sunset. And again, this is my backyard. And I did that movement, and I did bump up the colors a little bit. This is a newer one that I call Skinny Trees and Moody Skies that I shot at Blandy. You all know this clump of trees, but when you shoot at ICM, they become skinny. This is my backyard, and it's late fall, the maple tree. This is at Blandy, also late fall. So you see, there's just a ton of variety. Birch tree, backyard. Now, does this reminds me of a certain art movement. Does anybody else have the same sense? This is a tree, shot ICM, simple ICM. Does anyone else feel like this looks like a certain art movement? It looks like Art Deco to me. And so I found that sort of tickling. I like this one. This one I called Woodland Magic, and a publication called West Trade Review was looking at my IG feed and asked if they could use it to accompany a couple of poems. And again, backyard. And I don't have that many trees. So you choose different times of day, different seasons, and you get different looks. Backyard, very playful. Now you got to tell me what you think of this one.
Believe it or not, I'm almost thinking of that scene in Fantasia.
Exactly.
Trying to get rid of the water and all the, and all the trees carrying the buckets of water, and yeah.
That's it, Steve. That's it. This is a Sorcerer's Apprentice. I call it Sweeping Brooms. Yeah. And I think it should be the cover of a children's book. And I mean, I just was tickled when I saw it. And this was just up at Jim Barnett. Thank you.
I'm going to have that music in my head all night tonight. Dum, 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 dum. I'm going to be hearing that all night.
Well, you let me know. I'll send you the picture so that you have something to look at while you're singing it. So in this class I had with Valda Bailey and Doug Chinnery, they taught us another technique that I find astonishingly fun, almost too much fun. And it's called high burst ICM done in camera. So you go in and you set it. How many of you already, and you know what, I can't see everybody's hands now. So if you do multiple exposure in camera, instead of setting it on, well, there's disable, on, and then there's the next one, which is continuous shooting. And on my Canon, you have 9 images. And so I leave it on 9. And I will show you what you can do with it. And if you try it, you might just fall in love with it too. So this is one of my early ones. First of all, can you tell what that is?
The water bottle?
So good guess. It's a fire hydrant. And the way I shot it, this for all 9, and you're supposed to set it so that it shoots very, very quickly. The way Doug Chinnery described it, you want to hear your camera go click, 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 not just click, click. To me, that looks like graffiti. It looks very much like modern art. So for people who enjoy modern art, I think you'll have fun with this. This is a totally different look. A tree at Blandy where the red was simply little berries. There was nothing pretty about this tree at all, but by using the high burst technique, you got this very soft, gentle, graceful look with a color palette I love. Now, what can you see buried in this one? I'll tell you that I changed the colors entirely, but what can you see?
Looks like some papers.
So there's an American flag in there. This is down in the Old Town Mall. And you see the stars, that's part of the Stars and Stripes. But by doing you get all this geometric, and then I changed the color palette. But I just, so much fun. This is at Sky Meadows, and through the burst, the fence lines, there's lots of fence lines because of it. And so I was going to show you a couple things that I started doing maybe 3 months ago using multiple exposure and ICM, combining them in Photoshop. And I still have so much work to do on my Photoshop skills. But this image looks to me like primitive, primordial. That this is, can you see my cursor? Yeah, so that's a tree that I flipped upside down and put it on a background of a field. And it feels, and I use the blend modes in Photoshop, and it just looks like prehistoric to me. Oops.
We're not in Kansas anymore, is my impression.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I got to watch what I do with my cursor. This one is a water combined, some ICM and a couple of images. And again, it looks like primordial ooze to me. So let me try moving this without moving. So this right here, these are reflections of a tree in water. And I combined it with a shot of this tree over the moon. So I combined that. So this was the ICM part. Now, I'll be curious to see what you think this is. I totally made this up, but I think it'll give you a sense of how much fun you can have with ICM. What does it feel like?
The ocean.
Feels like the Outer Banks.
Yeah, and you know, I got 5 minutes early to my daughter's house before sunrise, and I shot the sky, which was not blue at the time, and I flipped and turned and multiplied and made it look like a beach since I couldn't get there. But that's the magic that you can do in camera, or that was in Photoshop. This one is a milkweed that in ICM looks doubled. So it looks like a bird, and I put it against a background of something else. I called this one Summer Solstice. It's not really the sun. It's a neighbor's light, but in ICM, you can do whatever you want. And it's against a background that's ICM of grass and reeds and water. For me, the great thing is it is permission to be outrageous. So you can create a super spooky scene with color. And remember that jewelry I showed you before that was for a competition? And I said, remember it? This was something Mark made for me. I changed this up in multiple exposure in memory of somebody who passed away, because he loved poetry and music and reading. And this just felt very comforting, and it seemed like heaven to me. And so that used that other ICM image, and then in multiple exposure, you could just totally change it up. Okay, I'll let you guess. You know this building. This is a building that all of you know that I shot in high burst. Any guesses on what it is?
What's the one on Cameron Street?
Good guess, but no.
I think it's the museum, the kids museum.
Actually, it's the Museum of the Shenandoah Valley.
Ah, okay.
So I did that in the, and I call it Noah's Ark. And then I put in the background something that wasn't sky to make a stormy sky. So, I mean, you can just do anything. This one looks Chagall-esque to me. So this was in my backyard where I didn't know high burst then, so I didn't know how to do that. But this was multiple exposure and some ICM where I moved the camera, and of course, the hand has 6 fingers, so it's a little surreal. So in terms of resources, if you enjoy this, there is an ICM photography magazine, and they have a group on Facebook that has almost 8,000 members. The quarterly magazine costs, and it's well worth it. I just started the new one, the new issue. It's 148 pages. So it's very rich with information. And I have not taken their training. They offer workshops both in person and online, but somebody in one of my groups has taken their training and thought it was really good. And then the reason I called it the Pure ICM group, that's the name of the Facebook group. There's no fee. You just join Intentional Camera Movement, the Pure ICM group. When I put this presentation together, there were 3,700 members worldwide, and they present challenges on specific topics over the weekends. And then they choose people, and because it's international, the reward is they say ice cream. And of course, somebody said, well, how do I get the ice cream? Well, that was just a metaphor. But it's a lot of fun, and you risk nothing, and there's no fee. Okay, yeah. So Elizabeth Gilbert has this great quote: do whatever brings you to life. Follow your own fascinations, obsessions, and compulsions. Trust them. Create whatever causes a revolution in your heart. Stephanie Johnson is the founder and creator of ICM Photography Magazine. She says, have fun, be playful, experiment, and explore continuously. Having an open and curious mind is essential with ICM because it is all about seeing things differently. With ICM, you can capture the essence of a subject. Being open and curious enables you to see the possibilities and potentialities of a subject in ways other more documentary styles of photography don't necessarily always allow. Subjects can be completely transformed with ICM. So in terms of workshops, I've taken one workshop. I can't wait for another one. Bailey Chinnery, baileychinnery.com. I love them. I've taken several with Eddie Soloway. I would love to take another. And he takes people all around the world if you're into that. I'm in a group, we call ourselves FOE, Friends of Eddie. We took a bunch of classes with him, and we couldn't leave each other, so we meet once a month. But one woman just got back from a trip to Tuscany with him. He is very helpful, but not super critical. So if you want a gentler teacher, and Valda and Doug are gentle as well. I tried to sign up for something with Freeman Patterson. He's in Canada. They had an opening in August. I can't get there because of the airlines. You can't get there from here. But I love he's got a lot of books, Freeman, and he doesn't just do ICM. This is my favorite book of his, Photo Impressionism and the Subjective Image. And then Valda Bailey's, it's brand new, We May As Well Dance. So those are two books that I really like. So questions or thoughts, I'm going to stop the share. Okay.
That was amazing.
Isn't it fun?
Yeah, I am really going to have to work on shedding the photography as documentary mindset.
And I think that if you've done it as long, and Steve, you know so much about the technical stuff. You know that I'm late to the technical stuff. I think it was easier for me. I didn't know that stuff. That you give yourself an assignment for the day so that you don't, and you just try something that's beautiful, even at the Museum of the Shenandoah Valley, even those statues you and I love that, I love what you've done with some of those statues. You can just try that and try the flower fields. Because what you'll learn very quickly is too fast is horrible, too slow, and you just begin to see the differences. How many people think they're going to try it?
Ellen, how much editing do you do generally?
So it depends on the image. If it's pure ICM, meaning I'm like for my online group, pure ICM, I can't combine it with anything else, but I can boost the color and I can crop. And they did have an assignment the other week that was straight out of the camera. They called it SOC, straight out of camera, that all you could do was crop. You couldn't even adjust the color. Mm-hmm. I like the color boosting, and I think part of it is how I see. I took a class with Susan Bernstein. She had a tough life. A lot of the images are very dark. She showed us a bunch and she said, what do you see? And I thought, I literally can't see anything. And other people saw the road and the traffic light. I couldn't see it. So I think it's partly my eyes. I just brighten everything up. So. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you if there's a resource that sort of summarizes all the different techniques that you have used here tonight.
So I didn't know about the high burst until I took that class with Val and Doug. Oh, you know what? On their site, they sell videos piecemeal of different parts of what they do. And so I would check there if you're interested. They're not outrageously expensive, but I don't know that they present the whole thing. And Norm, for you, you know Photoshop really well. I wish I had known it better before I took their class, and I want to learn it better before I take another one. But they have, yeah, so I don't know of one that summarizes everything.
I have a question, Ellen, or a comment. It's Nelda.
Hi, Nelda.
Hi there. My favorite one you did was the one with the teacup in the middle.
Yes.
Yes, I love that one. That is different. Was that just combining? Okay.
So that was multiple exposure, but not ICM.
Okay.
And so maybe. I think each one was 3, and I'm pretty sure that's correct because it wouldn't have been as, so I shot it in multiple exposure dark mode. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it wasn't ICM.
Okay. I kind of thought maybe that was the case, but I absolutely love that one.
Yeah, that one is well, that's very Alice in Wonderland also.
It is.
Yeah.
Ellen, I have a question. This is Mike.
Hi, Mike.
I don't know exactly how to ask it, so bear with me. Where you are in this process now, and you go to take work on an image, do you know where you're going, or is it all accident when you get there?
No, it's all an accident. And that just suits me so well.
But that's fine. I didn't want to ask it in a judgmental way, but I just wanted.
No, so, and a lot of people will say, pre-visualize. I mean, I'll see something I think is pretty, but then between the motion and the shutter speed and the light, I might get nothing. And what I'm doing now, I've started a series of Shenandoah Valley series, combining stuff. I never know what I'm going to get. So for me, who cannot expect to have a great shot, I'm not that good. I never will be. The surprise of it is everything.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a certain lens that you use most often for this?
There is, but most people will tell you any lens will work. So I usually take my 70 to 300, which is the same that Val DeBailey says she takes. And so I essentially, every once in a while, I'll need a neutral density filter on a bright day, but mostly just that. And I don't switch to other lenses. But that's also normal because I'm not that good fast at switching lenses. So I now, because I have the R5 and I need the adapter, it takes longer to do that. So I just go out with the 70 to 300. Okay, I think we're good. Norm,
well, it was a great presentation and very inspiring. I'm going to go out and try it out.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I think everybody should bring some, even if it's not the topic, just to see how everybody's doing.
Oh, that's a fun idea.
Yeah.
Try
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.